Hello and welcome to the Grandfather's Cave. In this video we are going to take a look at the reworked Druid, Monk, Paladin and Ranger classes. All the information I'm going through in this video I will make available in a PDF, and you'll find the link in the description of this video. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the future updates. And I encourage you to take a look at the backlog of videos in this channel, where I go through the redesign of the Dungeons & Dragons game and explain the rework of ability scores, races, and the other classes: the Cleric, the Scoundrel, the Warrior, the Wizard, the Bard, and the Barbarian. Now let's roll initiative and let's get started. To start off, let's take a look at the Druid. To become a Druid, a character must be of any neutral alignment, and most Druids will probably have a background as clerics. In order to become a Druid, a character must have access to two of the following cleric domains: air, animal, earth, fire, plant, water, or earth. In addition, they must be able to speak the Sylvan tongue and be proficient with a survival skill. It goes without saying that in order to become a Druid, the character must also venerate a deity of nature and have mastered the use of divine magic, in this case rank 3 spells. Like clerics, Druids maintain a medium advancement in both hit dice, stamina points, as well as attack bonus. While I have liked the interpretation of the wild shape ability in the modern Dungeons & Dragons games from 3.5 and onwards, I think those Druid classes have been kind of bland and flavorless. Basically, they have just been an excuse to have a cleric that can turn into a big animal and eat people. With my interpretation of the Druid, I try to take a step back from that. I'm going back to the AD&D Druid with all its flavor and its very intricate Druid hierarchy. But I am retaining a wild shape ability that resembles more the modern version of the wild shape and therefore is more useful to the Druid. It goes without saying that the Druid learns the Druidic language and acquires very advanced proficiency with the nature and survival skills as shown in the Nature Sense ability. And in addition, regardless of which domains the Druid has access to, they gain access to the Wild Empathy ability. The Wild Empathy ability allows the Druid to communicate and interact socially with animals. But in addition, this is also the foundation for the Druid's ability to acquire an animal companion. Animal companions in this system are not codified in the way that they were in the Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and Pathfinder games, but are instead just ordinary animals that the Druid can interact with and form a strong bond with. Through their spells, Druids will have the ability to enhance these animal companions, but the animal companions do not have an inherent progression that scales in the same way as previous animal companions did. In addition, the Druid gains the Woodland Stride ability that lets them move unhindered through wilderness terrain. To help the Druid catch up on Druidic magic, they also gain Primordial Lore. At 2nd level and at every other level beyond that, they may freely choose 2 Druid spells and add to their prayer book, in addition to whatever spells they might encounter on their adventure. Druids also gain a measure of resistance against the supernatural abilities of fake creatures. That goes without saying. And now we come to the wild shape. Druids gain wild shape at 2nd level. Because a character has to be 5th level before qualifying to become a Druid, this ability is first available at 7th character level. And while this might seem late to some players, the advancement in this ability is quite fast. Already at 3rd level, the Druid can become anything from a tiny to a large animal or a small-sized insect. At 5th level, the range for animals increases from diminutive to huge, and the Druid can now take the shape of either a plant creature or an insect of small to medium size. At 7th level, the Druid can become a small to large-sized plant or insect creature, or can become a medium elemental. At 9th level, they can become a small to huge-sized plant or insect, or a medium to large-sized elemental. And finally, at 11th level, the Druid can become an animal that is from diminutive to huge size, a plant or an insect from small to huge size, or an elemental from medium to huge size. As you can see, the advancement in the wild shape ability is quite fast. But what does the Druid actually get out of the wild shape ability? Of course, they can change shape to become some sort of animal, plant, or elemental. But how is this codified? I have a great deal of experience with Druids in the Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and the Pathfinder 1 rules. I really love the flexibility that the wild shape ability gives Druids there, but it is also a lot of paperwork that makes it difficult for both the player and the dungeon master to modify the character as it changes shape. On the flip side, I have only limited experience with the 5e Druid, but to me it seems kind of bland and very simplified. So I have gone with an approach that resembles the Pathfinder and 3.5 rules, but I have simplified that a lot. As you can see on this table of wild shapes, I have created a list of the overall categories the Druid can change into and made entries for the different sizes the Druid can assume. And by cross-referencing this table, a player or the GM can easily see what stat modifications are necessary in order to play either a plant, animal, or elemental of the corresponding size. This makes it much easier to assume a new form on the fly. It is a bit simplified, but it works. As an example, if a Druid suddenly wants to assume the shape of a wolf, then by cross-referencing this table, we can see that a medium animal gains a +2 to strength, a +2 armor bonus, and its natural attacks deal 1d6 damage. And if we assume that the Druid is 5th level, we can see that they would normally be able to access the powers of diminutive to huge-sized animals, and thus, as the wolf usually has access to the trip ability, the Druid in the wolf form would also be able to use this. On the other hand, if our Druid character wants to turn into a leshy, which is a small plant creature, we can see that the Druid would gain a +2 bonus on Constitution and Strength, a +2 armor bonus, a +1 size modifier on attack and armor class, and its natural attacks would do a d4 damage. In addition, if the leshy has night sight or poison, the Druid would also be able to use these abilities, as they fall within the size range the Druid is normally able to access. In this way, the Druid player gains great flexibility out of the wild shape ability without being bogged down by bookkeeping. Now we come to one of my favorites. I have reintroduced the hierarchy of Druids as it was presented in the AD&D game. That means that a Druid from level 1 to 6 is simply called an Initiate, and first at 7th level can they use the title of Druid. And as you can read here, there are a limited number of positions in each rank of the hierarchy. This is not meant to be used as a limiting factor against the player, but it is meant to be used as a narrative tool. Thus, in a game that includes a Druid, both the Druid player and the other players at the table must make allowances for that character to participate in Druidic events. These can be played out as mini adventures or quests in themselves, but can also in some instances just be hand-waved. But I strongly suggest that a GM uses the hierarchy of the Druids as an inspiration for adventures and plot developments when you have a Druid character at the table. Thus, when the Druid character becomes 8th level, you will have to compete for one of the 3 positions as an Archdruid. And to advance beyond that, becoming a Great Druid at 9th level, that character must either find a vacant position in the hierarchy and must challenge an existing Great Druid in some way. These need not be a simple challenge of combat or magic, but can be an elaborate skill challenge, or may actually be a mini adventure where the Great Druid has to complete some task before his rival does. Or maybe the Great Druid challenges the player character to achieve some very difficult task in a limited amount of time. And completion of this quest in time will be the ticket that allows that character to become the new Great Druid. Now, the really difficult thing is to become a Grand Druid at 10th level, as there's only one Grand Druid in the entire world. The Grand Druid has exceptionally strong magic powers, gaining access to a huge number of Druid spells. Becoming a Grand Druid is really a sweet deal for a character. They gain a lot of power and they can no longer be challenged. But it's also a position that comes with great responsibility and may force the player to participate in stories of political intrigue and power play. But at any point, when that character has experience enough to advance to 11th level, they may choose simply to abandon the position and become a Hierophant Druid. Hierophant Druids have immense power and have to some degree transcended the Druidic hierarchy. As an example, a Hierophant Druid gains the Faceless ability, which allows them to change their normal appearance in any way they want. In addition, they also gain the Vigorous Health ability that prevents them from taking any penalties for aging. And at 12th level, they gain the ability to hibernate. Also at 12th level, they gain the ability of the Earthwalker. This allows the Druid to plane shift into the plane of Earth and to be able to survive in that environment. At 13th level, they gain Firewalker. At 14th, Waterwalker, and finally at 15th level, their power culminates with the Airwalker ability. And at this point, they are able to enter any elemental plane at will without sustaining any harm from the environment. As you might be able to see, I've done a lot to try to maintain the power and flexibility of the Druid, but I've also given a lot of thought on how I can make the class more flavorful and interesting to play with a lot of nuanced adventures at the higher levels of the hierarchy. Before we take a look at the individual powers of the monk, you should know that I want the monk to be both a powerful and flexible melee combatant. Previous editions of the monk gave them a chi or ki pool that they could use to activate special powers. I'm trying to move away a bit from the Asian flavor and make it more generic fantasy. I want the monks in my world to cover both the Chinese Shaolin monk, but also be usable for making characters like Friar Tuck or anything in between for that matter. Monks have to be lawful, and before a character qualifies to become a monk, they must have learned improved unarmed strike and 2-weapon fighting feats. Monks have medium advancement in hit dice and stamina, but actually have fast advancement on their attack bonus. In addition, all the monks' saving throws are considered good saves. Like in many previous editions, monks gain an armor class bonus when they fight unencumbered and unarmed, and they gain a lot of martial arts inspired feats as bonus feats as they progress. With the martial artist ability, monks are able to freely choose whether to use their strength, dexterity, or wisdom modifier whenever they make combat maneuvers or defend against these. Monks also gain a powerful stunning fist ability, and unlike other characters, they can use their stunning fist ability to give their opponents other conditions than stun. They can make their opponents fatigued, sickened, staggered, blind, or even paralyzed. And while monks may only use the stunning fist ability once per round, at 15th level there is no limit to how many times per round the monk can use this ability. Now when we look at the monk, we can see that they gain access to both the improved 2-weapon fighting and greater 2-weapon fighting feats as they advance in level. Thus, by the time the monk reaches 10th level, they would be able to make 6 attacks per round without accessing their spirit pool. And the damage they deal with their unarmed attacks also increases, so that they at this level do 1d10 damage with each attack. Monks also gain evasion and also have a steady progression of their base speed with a fast movement ability, but it's actually first at 2nd level when things become really interesting for the monk player. At this point, they gain access to the Spirit Pool, which allows them to access a lot of varied monk abilities. By spending Spirit Points from their pool, they can do all the basics we expect of monks. They can enhance their speed, they can enhance their defense, or they can make extra attacks. But they can also use these Spirit Points from the Spirit Pool to utilize Spirit Powers. I will not describe each and every Spirit Power, but I will name them now so that you have an idea of what a monk can do. At 2nd level, they gain the option of taking Feather Balance, Healing Spirit, High Jump, Slow Fall, Spirit Mount, Steeled Mind, Sure Shot, and Water Step. From 3rd level, they can in addition select Light Step or Spirit Jump. At 5th level, they also add the option to take Fate Block. And at 7th level, the options increase with Abundant Step, Iron Soul, and Spirit Armor. Finally, at 11th level, they can also choose Spirit Walk and the Spell Mirror ability. I encourage you to pause this video to read up on the individual abilities, or to go into the description of this video and download the PDF that I have added a link for. Already at 2nd level, the monk also gains the Sure Strike ability. Sure Strike treats the monk's fists as magical weapons, but in addition, they also allow the monk access to special attacks. The names I have chosen for these special attacks are inspired by farming and crafting to emphasize that the life of the monk is simple and modest. At 2nd level, if the monk is limited to making only a single action attack, they can choose to make a Hammer Strike, which deals double the normal damage. At 2nd level, they can use a melee attack that sweeps the legs away under the foe that is called Scythe Strike. At 10th level, they gain access to the attack called Shatter Strike, which is a single action attack which bypasses the opponent's damage reduction and damage absorption. At 14th level, they gain the Threshing Strike, which lets the monk make some limited movement while conducting an all-out attack. Thus, at 14th level, the monk would actually be able to move a distance of 40 feet during a round and intermix that movement with any number of their 7 unarmed strikes for that round. On top of the Sure Strike and Spirit abilities of the monk, the character also gains the Iron Mind ability, which enhances their will saving throws, Purity of Body, which makes them immune to natural diseases, improved evasion, and Iron Body, which allows the monk to neutralize poisons in their own body. At 11th level, the monk can communicate with any sentient creature, and at 12th level, they gain the Quivering Palm ability. The Quivering Palm ability here is much as it has been in other editions of the game, an ability that lets the monk make an attack against an opponent that is not immediately fatal, but at any point afterward, the monk can with a mere thought unleash the destructive power of that ability, which immediately slays the target. The last ability of the monk is Timeless Body, which prevents the monk from aging any further. A very central aspect of monks in this game are the monastic orders. A player can choose for their monk character to be independent of any monastic order. Thus, the character is known as a wander monk. They would be welcome in most monasteries and would be able to sleep, meditate, and train with monks of all different paths. There are no inherent benefits to this and might in itself not seem very attractive, except that it has a certain appeal for players who want to remain independent. Other characters will join monk orders or monastic orders. Characters of monastic orders gain benefits in that they learn a monastic style. This improves their proficiency with certain skills and makes them more adept at using certain weapons. But in addition, if the monk meets certain feat requirements, that character gains access to a special combat maneuver. These combat maneuvers are different for each monastic order and in addition grants access to the order's signature feat. In this way, monks of distinct orders gain individual flavor. Now it's the turn for the Paladin. I think a major problem with the modern iterations of the Paladin is that they are all about the smite. To my mind, they have lost a lot of the charm that the old Paladin had in exchange for raw combat power. You could say that Paladins have really sold their soul. I'm trying to change that. I am taking a step away from the smite Paladin and again am trying to introduce some of that old school charm that the class had. To begin with, to become a Paladin, a character must be lawful good. They must also be proficient with a mysticism skill. And while a Paladin does not have to be a full-fledged cleric, they must have some access to divine magic. They must also be proficient with all martial weapons and must have the warrior's tenacious class feature. Finally, paladins must also be able to turn undead, which should not be a challenge for a character that already has divine spellcasting. Furthermore, the player of a paladin character must be aware of the paladin ethos. Paladins swear a vow of honor, which prohibits them from consorting with evil, stealing, and lying. They swear a vow of humility, which prevents them from gathering followers. Paladins swear a vow of nobility. They will treat their enemies with respect and accept their surrender. And finally, paladins also swear a vow of poverty. They may not amass wealth beyond what they need for a modest living and to pay off henchmen. They must tithe a tenth of their income to the church or spend it on charity that supports the poor and destitute. And they are limited in how many magical items they may accumulate. They can have 1 suit of armor, 1 shield, up to 4 magic weapons, and up to 4 non-consumable magic items. Paladins gain d10 hit die and a +3 stamina bonus, and their best saving throws are fortitude and will. Paladins keep advancing in their clerical spellcasting, although at a slower rate, but a paladin may actually choose to use their presence instead of their wisdom for spellcasting. Paladins gain the ability to detect evil at will. Paladins also gain the Lay on Hands ability, which allows them to use their turn undead ability to heal. In addition, when the Paladin uses the Lay on Hands ability, they remove any conditions from their target that they themselves are protected from through their tenacious class feature. As I said a moment ago, I have taken a big step away from the Smite Paladin. Instead, I have looked back at the old Holy Avenger sword. To me, it was funny how the Holy Avenger was an incredibly strong sword in the hand of a Paladin, but really a mediocre weapon in the hands of all other characters. I wanted to do something about that, because while a Holy Avenger was an exceptionally rare weapon, it was almost assumed that all Paladins would find one at some time. I have made a choice in interpretation and said that a Paladin sword is always his Holy Avenger. The Paladin chooses one specific weapon and bonds with that, and that weapon slowly acquires all the benefits and powers associated with the old Holy Avenger. At first level, the weapon gains a +1 magic bonus and does 1d4 additional damage against evil creatures. You don't have to choose to smite, it's something that always happens. At 4th level, the magic bonus increases to +2. At 7th level, the bonus increases to +3, and the Paladin now deals 2d4 extra damage against evil creatures. At 10th level, the bonus increases to +4, and at 13th level, the bonus increases to +5, and the Paladin always deals +3d4 damage against evil creatures. With the Holy Avenger ability, the Paladin no longer needs the Smite Evil ability. At 2nd level, the Paladin gains Divine Protection, which allows them to use their Wisdom bonus as a modifier on all saving throws. They also gain Divine Health that renders them immune to all natural diseases. And at 2nd level, they also gain the Holy Aura ability. The Holy Aura grants the Paladin and any ally within 10 feet a +1 bonus to armor class and saving throws against attacks of evil creatures. In addition, the Holy Aura increases to +2 at 8th level and +3 at 14th. This makes the Paladin once more that warrior characters wanted to rally around. At 3rd level, they also gain the ability to call a steed. This is the old Call Warhorse ability that Paladins had. The properties of such a steed are up to the game master, and acquiring the steed should also involve some sort of quest for the Paladin and maybe also his friends. Finally, as another call back to the Holy Avenger sword of the earlier editions, the Paladin gains Magic Ward. Magic Ward grants the Paladin an aura of magic resistance whenever holding the Holy Avenger, and this magic resistance increases as the Paladin gains levels. Just as monks could belong to monastic orders, so can paladins. Paladin orders work differently than monk orders. There are not a lot of inherent bonuses. There is no combat style associated with the paladin orders. Belonging to a paladin order allows the paladin access to special feats that in some way reflect the mission of that order. Lastly, we come to the Ranger. The Ranger has always been one of my favorite classes. But while I love the flavor of the Ranger, I think that the abilities have always let me down. Let's see what I have come up with. In order to become a Ranger, a character must be of good alignment. They must have acquired endurance and point-blank shot feats. In addition, the Ranger must be proficient with both the proficient herbalism and survival skills. Why they require proficient herbalism, I will get into when I explain the Ranger spells. Lastly, the Ranger must also be proficient in one martial or exotic ranged weapon, as well as one martial or exotic melee weapon. Rangers, they get a d10 hit die and +3 stamina bonus. And the Rangers' good saves are Fortitude and Reflex. Back to Ranger magic. Unlike all other spellcasters in the game, Rangers do not have a spellbook, and Rangers do not proceed with either divine or arcane magic. And while many Ranger spells resemble the primordial magic of Druids, they do not cast Druid spells either. Ranger magic in this game is inspired by the magic of the Rangers and the Elves in Tolkien's universe. It normally involves the knowledge and use of herbal remedies and natural reagents. Therefore, all Ranger spells always have an additional requirement in material components in addition to what other characters might use. Therefore, all Ranger spells have a requirement of material components in the form of herbs and other natural materials. On the positive side, Rangers never use expensive material components or foci. I really love the idea of the Ranger being a switch here. Therefore, they gain the Draw and Stow ability. With this ability, whenever a Ranger draws a weapon, they may immediately put away another weapon they might have had in their hand. This makes switching from bow to sword or vice versa much easier for the Ranger. And Rangers also gain the Favorite Enemy ability. They may choose a foe from the list of favorite enemies below. Against these foes, the Ranger gains a +2 bonus on Arcana, Engineering, Mysticism, Nature, Perception, Social, and Survival skill checks, as well as attack rolls. In addition, they gain a bonus to damage rolls equal to their Ranger level. As the Ranger advances, they gain additional favorite enemies. The Ranger gains a favorite terrain at 1st and at 3rd level, and they gain one additional favorite terrain at 8th and 13th level as well. To make the favorite terrain more important for the Ranger, I have given them the Hunter Stride ability. The Hunter Stride ability allows the Ranger to ignore the penalties of difficult terrain to a certain degree, as long as the Ranger is wearing a light armor or no armor. Like Druids, a Ranger also gains the Wild Empathy ability. Rangers are also very adept at tracking and gain a bonus equal to half their level whenever they attempt to follow tracks already at 1st level. And at 3rd level, they may track their quarry at a much faster pace than others. At 4th level, they gain evasion, and at levels 5, 9, and 13, they gain bonus combat feats. Unlike in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and in the Pathfinder rules, the Ranger can freely choose which combat feats to select. At 6th level, the Ranger gains the Huntmaster ability. With the Huntmaster ability, the Ranger becomes even more deadly against their favorite enemy. Thus, at 6th level, they increase the critical threat range of their weapons by 1. And at 14th level, they increase the critical multiplier by 1 as well. And at 15th level, whenever a Ranger rolls an attack roll within the weapon's critical threat range, that is an automatic hit and critical against that favorite enemy. At 7th level, the Ranger gains Camouflage, which allows them to hide in their favorite terrain even if there's no cover or concealment. And at 11th level, the Ranger gains the improved Evasion ability. The final ability the Ranger gains is the Hide in Plain Sight ability, which permits a 12th level Ranger to hide from an opponent even while being observed. I hope that you have found these 4 classes interesting and that you recognize the unique blend that I'm going for between the Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 and the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules for these classes. Remember that I have added a link to a PDF in the description of this video where you can see all the details about these specialist classes for the Avern rules. In the next video, I will attempt a procedural explanation of the combat rules of the Avern system. I look forward to making that and suggest that you subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss it. Also, is there any of these classes that you find particularly interesting or something that you would have done differently? Please let me know. Until next time, keep playing.